In this video, we'll see how we can easily modify our table schema to do things like change the table properties, add or remove columns, or rename or change our data types of certain columns. Now, KDB Insights Enterprise handles this conveniently for you, but there are a few considerations to be aware of. So the first one is stopping the database. So before you attempt to modify a schema, the schema must not be in use. So therefore, if you have deployed a schema, you do need to tear it down before modifying. And the next is stopping the pipeline. So if you have data publishing to your database and you want to apply changes like changing the data types, you do need to adjust the apply schema node in the pipeline if you are using one. So this ensures that the pipeline has the updated schema. And if you're doing something at the table level rather than the column level, like changing table attributes, you may not require this stopping the pipeline step, so do check the docs for guidance. Another reason that you might want to stop your pipeline first though is the rate and size of incoming data. As we're demonstrating with the relatively small data set here, any new messages that arrive during the schema modification are buffered and loaded after the modification completes if we did leave our pipeline running. But in production settings with really large databases, this process of modification can take some time. So we would recommend stopping the pipeline before that in those cases. The last thing to consider is backup. And I want to mention this because in a real life production scenario, we would recommend you back up your database prior to doing any schema modifications. And this is good practice for any database, and the steps are detailed in the documentation, so I'll link that below as well. So now that we're aware of the considerations, let's look at how to modify our schema. So we do this in the schema settings in our database tab, and we're going to just change the data type of a column. So as I mentioned, before we're able to do this, we do tear down both the pipeline and the database. So let's do that now. And when tearing down the database, we're going to leave this checkbox unticked because we want to ensure we're not going to lose any of our data we've already saved down. And let's go back to our pipeline and also stop this. So let's change our data type here. We're going to change this from an integer to a long, and then we're going to save and deploy. Now, once that's ready, we can go back to our pipeline and we're going to run a full test just to see where we need to adjust our pipeline given this change. And this full test simulates an end-to-end flow, including a save down to the database check. So it might take a little bit longer than the quick test. And now that we've seen that's completed, we're getting a problem in our apply schema node, which we kind of predicted. And we're going to edit that node now. And we can simply reselect our equities database and table. And we can see that it now has that updated data type for this column. So we're good to deploy now. Once that deploy is running, we can pop back to our query tab and have a look at the table. Now, if we query the same table and run the meta command, which in KDB gives us the schema back, we can see the table has indeed been updated to the new data type shown to be a J, which indicates a long value as opposed to I for integer. So hopefully you can see how easy and quick it is to manage your database in this product. There's no need for any coding steps to do this. That's it for this module. Try the quiz at the end to test your knowledge.